Hey, thanks for joining me again. I wanted to go in a different direction on this stream, but first I wanted to at least acknowledge that Millie Weaver is free. Here's the picture that she posted with her friend Tori, who was in that documentary. She says, "Thank you all for your support. I appreciate everything that was done for me, done to help me regain my freedom and my children. Have faith in humanity." Good luck to you, Millie. I think that you're going to have an emotional roller coaster going forward with everything that's going on. But I wanted to talk about this guy, Mark Taylor, who is his story is kind of a unique story. He is a firefighter that decided he went through a traumatic event, and then he started having these very vivid dreams, and and he received these kind of visions. And I wanted to have a discussion about him because I keep seeing him pop up all over YouTube. I watch his videos, and I find him kind of intriguing. But while some more people join us, I did want to show you um, this cool thing today. Any of you that drink coffee, I went to the first Dunkin' Donuts ever. So while people are joining, I'll show you this little report I did on the original Dunkin' Donuts. Stopping today at the original Dunkin' Donuts in Quincy, Massachusetts. And this site, I've gone by it a lot. It's actually not that far from my normal area. And so I've gone by it a bunch, but I've never filmed it. I figured I'd film it. I'm sure it's out there, but anyway, this says this is the original site of Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts in 1950 it was built, and you can see it's been modernized. There used to be some big buildings around it and whatnot, but it's now it looks pretty much like any other Dunkin' Donuts. Actually, it's a little smaller and more awkward, but I'm sure they keep it because there it says the first Dunkin' Donuts was opened in 1950 on this site in Quincy, Massachusetts by founder Bill Rosenberg. In March 1979, the Carvajal family began brewing at this original Dunkin' Donuts location and have owned and operated it since. To honor the history of this site and better serve our guests for years to come, this original location was redesigned in a retro style in 2011. Interesting. Thank you. Oops, my camera went out of focus. Oh well. So this is what the site looks in August 2020 during the quarantine. Not too many people there, right across from a dealership. Very nice. Here's the original Dunkin' Donuts building. Pretty interesting. There it is. Looks like there were some houses around it at one point. This is what it looks like today. About Dunkin'. In 1950, Bill Rosenberg opened the first Dunkin' Donuts restaurant in Quincy, Massachusetts with the goal to make and serve the freshest, most delicious coffee and donuts quickly and courteously in modern, well-merchandised stores. In 1955, the first Dunkin' Donuts franchise opened. Very interesting, and I have just checked it out. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. Okay, so I did that report earlier today, and I just thought I would share it while more people are joining, but it doesn't look like a lot of people are going to join, which I kind of figured because probably a lot of people don't know who this Mark Taylor is. But to kind of get us going on this, and please leave comments. I will try to do a fair look and a fair breakdown of Mark Taylor. So I keep seeing this guy pop up in my news feed on social media, on YouTube, even on the internet. His name's Mark Taylor. 10 years ago or so, he predicted that Trump would become president, and then Trump became president. So it gives him tons of credibility. And they even made a movie about him called The Trump Prophecy. I'll play the trailer to that movie right now.
job as a fireman was to react calmly. You can't afford to have feelings about it. It'll get you killed. In my work, I've seen everything. But what I saw last night scared me so much. Until recently, nobody knew what PTSD was.
Lord, I need you to heal him.
I'm done.
How does it feel?
It's a little scary. I have very graphic dreams. Sometimes I think it's God talking to me. Dreams are important. They can give us a window to what's going on inside. I got this one in 2011.
The Commander-in-Chief prophecy?
God is telling us to pray for our country, its leadership, and those in authority over us. That's what we need to do.
They're going at him tooth and claw. What if I'm wrong?
If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land.
Okay, so you can believe that's a prophecy, or you can believe it's just him getting lucky. It doesn't matter to me, one way or the other, because God puts in place, and the Bible puts in place, very specific things on how to tell whether somebody is a false prophet or not. I'm going to read this article from Kids Talk About God. We're going to make this really simple. We're going to just break this down into a really simple look at how you can tell whether somebody's a false prophet or not. And I'm not going to make the judgment whether he's a false prophet. I'm just going to give you this information.
How can you tell a false prophet from a true prophet? You can't tell a real prophet from a false one by whoever sings the loudest and prays the longest, says Chris 12. You can even preach the best, but if the heart is not right, God can't hear you. So it is hard to know a real from a fake prophet, but God knows. False prophets know how to impress people with outward shows of piety. As Chris said, God knows what's going on in the heart. A true prophet is nice to others, says Diana 8. Paintings and movies often portray Jesus as Mr. Nice Guy. We forget that long before power tools, he worked as a carpenter. I've never seen a painting of Jesus driving money changers out of the temple with a whip. The Bible is filled with stories of true prophets speaking tough words to belligerent audiences. John the Baptist lost his head. The prophet Isaiah was sawed in two. The prophet Zechariah was stoned. It's not always popular to tell the truth. The problem with false prophets is that they usually tell partial truths. There's a Yiddish proverb that says, a half-truth is a whole lie. A true prophet will always tell the truth, says Vicky 12. And a false prophet will start telling things that aren't true once you get to know him. Sometimes a false prophet will even say he is the Messiah. The Apostle John proposed a test for all prophets. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. And every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God. John 4:2-3. Your first question to people claiming to be God's spokespersons should be, who is Jesus Christ? If they don't confess him as fully God and fully man in one person, you can write them off as false prophets. As C.S. Lewis said, Jesus is a liar, lunatic, or Lord. He can't be just a good man or a prophet as some claim. Good men don't claim to be God if they're not. A false prophet may seem righteous at first, but he's really not, says Ally 12. Sometimes it's hard to tell because they are so disguised and so innocent looking. You really need to pray about it and ask God to direct you to which person to trust. Ally probably read what Jesus said about the false prophet wardrobe. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7:15. Don't expect a false prophet to appear as Darth Vader. Remember the story of Little Red Riding Hood? The big, bad wolf disguised himself in grandmother's clothes. Don't expect anything less from false prophets. Outwardly, they look as innocent as sheep, but inwardly, they're ready to pounce and devour. Jesus said you would know false prophets by their fruits. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Galatians 5:22. Jesus also said words flow from a person's inner self and eventually reveal who people are. Luke 6:43-45. Listen carefully. Think about this. The Bible is our standard for testing anyone who claims to speak in the name of God. Memorize this truth. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7:15. Ask this question. Do you know God's word well enough to discern whether someone truly speaks for God? Kids Talk About God is written and distributed by Carrie Kinsolving. Visit www.kidstalkaboutgod.org.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pause it there. That was a very succinct, to the point, from the perspective of some young children, and I loved it. So this guy, Mark Taylor, claims to be a prophet. He tells anybody who will listen that he's a prophet. But when people criticize him and point out that some of the things he said have not exactly come true, this is his answer.
This movie that we rehearse in our head over and over, how we feel that something's supposed to come to pass. And when something doesn't come to pass the way we've rehearsed it in our head, these unexpected expectations, then people say, oh, that's the false prophecy. No, it didn't come to pass the way you wanted to. And let me give an example of that.
Yeah.
I said, I had prophesied that Obama was going to serve a third term. I got drugged through the coals with that one because, oh, you don't know your Constitution. He can't do that, this, that, and the other. Well, what are we seeing right now with Obama? He's got his own little White House, 2 miles down from the White House. He has a shadow government. They just have been following him for a month. It just came out, and they said he is, in fact, running a shadow government. Guys, that's his third term right there. You know, when you look at biblical times and they attack someone, call them a false prophet, they may have been in front of 200 or 300 people. That was it.
Yeah.
Well, brother, this little thing right here, everything is at your fingertips now. And I tell these keyboard commandos that before you hit that enter button and you attack someone, you better make darn sure they're not God's anointed, because God is very serious. Because now when you hit that enter button, it's going worldwide for people to see, Josh. Yep. And people don't understand the implications of that. You are literally taking your life in your own hands right now, because judgment is here. It's not coming. It's here on the earth right now, and God's not putting up with it. So before you go calling someone false, you better make sure you got your facts and your ducks in a row.
Is it just me, or does it sound like he was threatening you with eternal damnation if you did not go along with him being a true prophet? Which, again, I'm not saying whether he is or not, but I want to tell you my story with Mark Taylor, and ever since this happened to me, I've had questions, and I think it's okay to have questions. Back in the 2018 election cycle, Mark Taylor, I was watching a video on YouTube that he was in, and he made the prediction. He said that the Lord had told him, or God had told him, that the Republicans were going to keep the House in the upcoming election, which would have been the midterm election in 2018. And his prophecy was that the Republicans would keep the House. When they lost the House in that election, I became skeptical, and I was telling somebody about this, and they brought up the fact that, well, in 2020 he is predicting things about the election, and I won't get into what those are, but so his prophecies are continuing, or what he is calling prophecies. Again, I'm not saying whether they are or they aren't, but anyway, ever since I clearly heard him in videos say in 2018 the Republicans were going to keep the House, and then that didn't happen, it's made me think a little bit harder about this guy, Mark Taylor.
He prophesied there was going to be a red tsunami in the midterms, and I got hammered because we lost the House. We didn't lose the House, Francine. Most of those people in the House are not supposed to be there. They were after the Senate. Q even confirmed the Senate. We picked up 6 red governorships, which are huge. Why was that huge? We're seeing it now, because people are, when I said that, like, oh, that's 6 governorships, big deal. No, it is a big deal now. Now you're seeing how big of a deal having a red governor is right now, especially right now in these tyrannical, with what's going on, these tyrannical governors. But, We did not lose the House. I believe they allowed it to happen. So again, to let people see and experience who these Democrats were, how bad they really were, so that people could experience for themselves, so that they will never be able to get back into office again. Most of the people in there right now are not supposed to be there because their districts, they stole the election.
Right.
We know that. And even now, Trump even confirmed this. I think it was about a week ago. He was in a press conference. They were talking about electoral voter fraud, and he said, "You're going to find out." I was like, "Yes, thank you, finally." You know, release the numbers there, man.
Amen.
Who's supposed to be in office and who's not?
Exactly.
Get them out. Get them out.
Get them out.
So I guess a few things are clear. Number one, this guy Mark Taylor is a Republican. There's no question about that, because all his prophecies seem to benefit the Republicans. And number two, whenever a prophecy doesn't happen the way that he sort of said it might happen, or he insinuated it would happen, he comes up with a explanation for it. And I guess it's up to you whether that explanation makes any sense. But then there's this other video where he talks about the red wave again. And it's interesting how he phrases this, because in this video, which he made prior to the 2018 election, so he didn't know the outcome when he made this video, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, but you may be able to say that he just got the date wrong. He wasn't talking about 2018, he was talking about 2020. And sometimes in prophecy, even in the Bible, prophecy does unfold differently than what people are expecting it. Like, for instance, when Jesus came, everybody was expecting that Jesus was going to come with an army, conquer everybody, and set up his kingdom on earth. But the prophecy fulfilled completely different than what the people at the time were expecting. So this is an interesting video, and I just want to give both sides of the story, where he's explaining prior to 2018 what's going to happen in 2018 with this red wave.
And here again, now, this is where God's saying, this election is not over. This red tsunami's got to be started by an earthquake. We had the red wave. The earthquake was Sessions stepping aside. The delay is over, man. They're going after these people hard. Now, I've been saying, even on your show, for 2 years, I've been saying the mass arrest, I've been saying verbatim on your show, is that the army of God better get ready to take their place when these vacancies through these mass arrests happen. Because there's going to be a ton of job openings in D.C. That's the tsunami. The rumblings of the earthquake are already started when Sessions was moved out, and now we've got a new prosecutor coming in, our attorney general, and so this is what's going to start the earthquake, and the tsunami is going to happen when the mass arrests take place. That's the red tsunami right there. I am not going to back off this red tsunami thing, because I know what God told me. I know the tsunami is coming. This is all part of it. And so I am not going to apologize for something that God did. So people want to sit there and they want to criticize, and it's like, you don't understand what you're talking about, because you're not seeing the big picture right now. So, and the big picture is that any prophetic person will tell you that they live way out here on the edge, and they're constantly seeing the full picture, and they're over here trying to tell the people, hey, come over here, I need you to see this. And when people attack you like this, it's because they're operating from a point of intellect. They're not operating in the spirit. This is not where God doesn't operate in the natural. They're prognosticating. They're basing their facts on what they see in the natural with their natural eyes. That's not where God operates. God operates in the spiritual realm, and that's where people get it wrong.
So again, I may be giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he doesn't ever say 2018 in this video, at least. He does acknowledge in the last video we watched that he was talking about 2018, but in this video he doesn't talk about 2018. He says that the red tsunami starts, and the red tsunami, of course, is referring to the Republicans taking control of everything. Again, he's a Republican. But it starts, it says, if you listen to what he said, the red tsunami starts when the arrests begin, when Attorney General Barr starts arresting people. And as we know, as of the recording of this in the middle of August, we just had the first arrest from the Durham report, where a FBI lawyer pleaded guilty for lying on a FISA warrant. So it's interesting. Maybe we're giving him the benefit of the doubt here, but what he applied to 2018, I could see an argument that it could be applied to 2020 rather than 2018. But again, I'm not saying whether he is or he's not a prophet. I'm just kind of laying this story out so that you can make a decision, and it's an informed decision. I found this informative about Mark Taylor as well. There's a website called Creation Liberty, and it talks about Mark Taylor on here. And the author, who I don't have the author's name, but I'm going to read this. So I've never really addressed this guy before, and I might have to do a teaching on it to help those who follow the conspiracy so-called ministries to either depart from them or depart from us, because we are not on the same side. Mark Taylor is a false prophet, and the problem is that Mark Taylor will tell people that anyone who calls him a false prophet are in danger of God's wrath. But that is only if it is a true prophet, which Taylor is not, according to this guy. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Matthew 7:15. Taylor claims to have predicted Trump's election to presidency back in 2011. While I was researching this a bit, I found an article by a place called Right Wing Watch, and here's what they said. When radical right-wing conspiracy theorist and so-called firefighter prophet Mark Taylor appeared on the Daily Renegade program last weekend, he warned that anyone who called him a false prophet was literally risking their lives because God does not take kindly to those who attack his prophets. During that same program, Taylor struggled mightily to explain away the false prophecies he delivered prior to the 2018 midterm election, when he repeatedly guaranteed that America would see a red tsunami sweep across the nation as Republicans won at every level. This is not what happened, and in the wake of the election, Taylor initially tried to defend his false prophecy by predicting that hundreds of Democratic politicians would be rounded up in mass arrest and replaced by Republicans, thereby proving his red tsunami prophecy was accurate. Though I don't know all the details, Mark Taylor has made a number of ridiculous prophecies like this in the past, and they have not come true. As I listen to Taylor in some of his interviews, he's the type of man who does not quote the Bible, but rather he paraphrases it, and by doing so, he actually gets some things wrong. I'm not going to go into all the details here, because if I end up doing a full teaching on it later, I'll just save that work for then. However, just upon listening to the guy for a few minutes, I did not trust him. I listened to Taylor try to say that we shouldn't analyze a prophet for every single tiny detail, which was ridiculous, because that's basically like saying that the Word of God is not that important, or we should not take his word with the utmost reverence. Again, these are some of the things I heard from Taylor, which leads me not to trust anything he says. I'm going to diverge from what this guy's saying just for a second, because it is important when dealing with a prophet who's alive to differentiate between things that he says that are prophetic and things he just says his normal course of living, like, while he's at the dinner table or he's writing a letter to his wife or something. You don't take the words in that letter to his wife or to a friend and later on consider those prophetic words. Back to this. Of course, now Taylor has a book published on his Trump prophecy to turn a profit from it, because, there's a long-running tradition of the prophets of God making a lot of money from their prophecies, right? Wrong. But hey, why not make a movie about himself that played in theaters in 2018, which brought in over $600,000 in ticket sales? I could have this wrong, but I found this online. It seems to be the prophecy Taylor made in 2011. I'm going to diverge again here. I'm not sure you can hold the fact that they made a movie about him against him. Let's just be fair about that. And in today's day and age, let's face it, if you were a true prophet, I'm not saying he is or he's not, but if you were a true prophet, I'm guessing that you would have books written about you, movies made about you, you'd be paid to, you may you could capitalize on that without even wanting to capitalize or intending to capitalize. But I'm going to go back to this. So this is the prophet. 1, the Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man Donald Trump for such a time as this, for as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, and restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth other than Israel. The dollar will be the strongest it has ever been in the history of the United States and will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. 2, the Spirit of God says, the enemy will quake and shake and fear for this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he is running for president. It will be like the shot heard across the world. The enemy will say, what shall we do now? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We have been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this? 3, the Spirit says, ha. The Spirit says, ha. Well, the Spirit laughs, I guess. Ha, no one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown, for the plunder from the enemy what he has stolen, and return it sevenfold back to the United States. 4, the enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by America once again. The Spirit says, yes, America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. 5, the Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for this next president will be a man of his word. When he speaks, the world will listen and know that there is something greater in him than all the others before him. This man's word is his bond, and the world and America will know this, and the enemy will fear this, for this man will be fearless. 6, the Spirit says, when the financial harvest begins, so shall it parallel in the spiritual for America. 7, the Spirit of God says, in this next election they will spend billions to keep this president in. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let them waste their money, for it comes from and is being used by evil forces at work. But they will not succeed, for this next election will be a clean sweep for the man I have chosen. I'm going to diverge here for a second. This point 7, this next election, well, he made this in 2001. So the next election in 2001, I think it was the 2001 or 2011. The next election after 2011 was 2012. So we were talking about the election of Mitt Romney. Keep that in mind. He said in this next election. Anyway, let's go on. That's just a side point that when this prophecy was made, the very next presidential election was between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. Just 8. They, the enemy, will say things about this man, but it will not affect him. And they shall say, it rolls off him like the duck. For as the feathers of a duck protect it, so shall my feathers protect this next president. 9. Even mainstream news media will be captivated by this man and the abilities that I have gifted him with, and they will even begin to agree with him, says the Spirit of God. Frankly, and then back to the author, that was the prophecy of Mark Taylor about Donald Trump. Frankly, I don't see how any of this edifying to the church, nor the point of it all, nor it does not seem to match up with the patterns God has shown in His Word. Granted, in Hebrews 1, it does say that God has spoken in diverse manners at sundry various times, but when you look at the details on this prophecy, it says that this next election will be clean sweep for the man I have chosen, and that's key because the man who was chosen in 2012 was Obama. Oh, he actually is making the same point that I just made, even though this prophecy was supposed to be about Trump, who was defined at the beginning as this man. Therefore, this prophecy did not come true. Part of the reason I believe he prophesied this was because Trump had publicly announced his plans to run back in 2012, but then he dropped out and endorsed Mitt Romney instead. But as you can see, none of that was mentioned in Taylor's so-called prophecy because it did not come from God. I do not nor ever have supported Mark Taylor, but sadly, there are some people who think that I did because Taylor wrote me and asked if he could share my material about a 501c3. I presume that he has referenced to my materials in the past, and sadly, because of the internet, people get the impression that he and I believe the same things and we are yoked together, but that is far from the truth. Again, I'm reading from this guy's article. And then he goes on and he says, here's the exchange that this guy had with Taylor back in 2016. I censored the phone number for privacy. I've never heard of this guy before, and he wrote to me to ask if he could use my materials. Hello, my name is Mark Taylor, and I would like, this is what he wrote to him. Mark Taylor, I'd like to talk to someone on the phone about some questions I have on the 501c3 classes. I'd be happy to call you. I don't pay long distance. My contact number, cell phone is blank. Blessings, Mark. Okay, I'm going to pause this here because it just goes into some things that don't matter. But basically, you get the gist that Mr. Taylor is quite an interesting character. He's made prophecies. Actually, I got some comments on the YouTube video I posted. And people get quite defensive of Mr. Taylor. Here's one comment. He actually, let me go to the comments here. Tired Safari. Yeah, there we are. He is not the only prophet to pick Trump. Even before Trump knew, no matter what you do, God is watching you. All right, and then this person wrote, I've been following Mark Taylor for 4 years now. I will not question anyone who receives messages from God, especially when all of his prophecies have been true. Let us not attack those who speak the word of God, and those who question him will never see the light. Well, that's interesting because that's not exactly true, Jacqueline. Not all his prophecies have come true. But I've never attacked him, and I think I give a pretty fair shake to this guy because I even acknowledge that maybe some of the prophecies that he said that have not yet come true will come true in the future. I mean, that's always a possibility. So, but to say that all his prophecies have come true is just simply not a true statement. He claimed that there was going to be a red wave in 2018. And let's face it, there was no red wave. He claimed that Donald Trump was going to win in 2012. And Barack Obama won in 2012. And he has made prophecies that have not come true. Oh, and he claimed that Obama would have a third term. I mean, isn't that... First of all, it's not even legal for a president to have a third term. But when he tries to explain that away, he says, well, basically, this is Obama's third term because there's a shadow government going on right now. Actually, Millie Weaver just posted a video, Shadowgate. So that does give, looking at both sides, that does give a little credence to his prophecy that Obama was going to have a third term. But we have to face the fact that no, Obama did not have a third term. Let's look at some more of the comments over here. First of all, I think I want to go a little closer to here. Get these comments nice and big. All right, let's go back over here. Do you not realize that by bringing up something and start the conversation in a manner of the question of faults, you are suggesting that this person is somehow a person on the wrong side of truth? You have your ideas of what is right and wrong. You may be on the wrong side yourself. I'm not sure I'm on the wrong side of this. I mean, it's entirely possible that I am, but I'm making an earnest effort to show both sides here. It's not what a man puts in his mouth that defiles him. It's what comes out of his mouth. You have just admitted you have a problem with Mark, but man is not where the truth lies. If you don't like somebody, it will influence what comes out of your mouth. You have no idea how Jesus deals with Mark, so be careful how you plant seeds on rocky ground. Let Jesus show you what he wants you to know, and don't go chasing the words of others. And this benefit of doubt you constantly bring up is not really what you mean. You are really pushing doubt. All right, that was a very nice comment. I appreciate that, Brenda. I actually replied to her. I said, thank you for the comment. One of the problems with being independent is that everyone thinks you're against them. I am truly neutral when it comes to Mark. I see evidence that goes both ways. I think I did a good job of expressing both sides. I never told the viewer to go either way. It's your decision, not mine. And then she replies, but Josh, my main point is that you should just be positive about how you feel and don't keep repeating that you are trying to create doubt, because once you start the doubt conversation, you're suggesting that to the listener and therefore creating your own opinion instead of allowing them to have their opinion. And then somebody agreed with her. I'm going to have to say no. That's not how it works. Giving both sides. This is what's wrong with our country. I mean, this is exactly what's wrong with what's going on with the debate in our country today, because one side has their strongly held beliefs and the other side has their strongly held beliefs. And when you're an independent person like me and you're trying to show both sides, you're trying to earnestly show both sides, everybody hates you. You get hit on by both sides. They both think that you're this horrible person, and it's simply not true. Let's go back to doing a little research here. Christian Prophet announces that, actually I want to bring in, so Christian Prophet announces that Hurricane Dorian is a false flag and declaration of war against the people. When you get these stories and all of a sudden, boom, you've got an almost Category 6 storm, McDonald said, it does not take a genius to figure out it's called a disaster, a distraction, and it's called a false flag. Taylor agreed. I think I missed something here. Let's play this. I think hopefully it doesn't come up with an ad. If it does, I'm going to have to mute it.
To last week, what were we talking about last week? We were talking about one James Comey getting basically not exonerated totally, but they were telling us that the memo stuff was not going to be prosecuted, and Giuliani was on the television all weekend saying, "Look, guys, don't listen to this narrative that Jim Comey's out of the woods." He said he literally came out and said, the arrests are coming, be patient, the prosecutions are coming, and this is not the end of the deal for anybody, including one James Comey. And he basically came out and said, Mark, that Comey was the architect of this whole Russia stuff. It goes back to him. And I'm going to tell you something. When you get these stories and all of a sudden, boom, you got almost a Category 6 storm, you got 2 shootings. It don't take a political...
An earthquake off the Oregon coast.
Earthquake after the Oregon coast. It does not take a genius to figure out it's called a distraction, and it's called a red flag or false flag or whatever we call it. But are you concurring with that? Do you feel like that's...
Absolutely, brother. Look, last week I think I went public for the first time about the Hordes of Chaos being released. Man, maybe I should have kept my mouth shut, because, it just... this is no joke, man. The Hordes of Chaos have been released. Satan's pastors have been activated. We're seeing all these things happening right now. Like you said, the storms, the shootings. Even the deep state right now, Chris, is paying attention to the comms.
Yes, they are.
They're paying attention to our comms as far as like Q, all these things, what the president's doing. So they know what's coming. Look, people are freaking out about this stuff with James Comey. Oh my gosh, he got off, this, that, and the other. I just look, time out, man. Pump the brakes there, Turbo.
He's not getting off on these charges. These are little trumped up charges. Why do we want to waste our time with these little trumped up charges? And the bigger stuff is coming. These guys are going to be indicted. They're going to go to jail. They're going to go to prison. So, I mean, it's coming, guys. We just have to be patient, but it's not by coincidence that the hordes of chaos have been released, because they know their time is short, Chris. They know their time is short. They know what's around the corner. The FISA, OIG is right around the corner, man, and they know it's coming, and this is why the hordes of chaos have been released. And we just look, this is the most dangerous time, as we can tell. We've got one of those deadly hurricanes sitting not even 50 miles off the coast here. And so this is one of the most dangerous times right now for us, per se, because this is war.
Yeah.
That hurricane right there, that's a declaration of war against the people. What do the shootings, the hurricanes, and all these things that are being generated, what does it have to do? It has to do with really a couple of things, but one thing in particular. The same thing Hitler did to London, England during the Blitz.
Blitzkrieg. That's right.
They're literally trying to kill the will of man.
That was brutal. I don't know how. So, so basically, he's predicting that Hurricane Dorian is a false flag and a declaration of war against the people. He made a bunch of predictions in there. As Hurricane Dorian continues to move toward the United States, self-proclaimed prophet Mark Taylor and conspiracy theorist Chris McDonald are saying the entire hurricane is a false flag. On the MC file, McDonald claimed coverage of the hurricane is a false flag to distract Americans from the recent announcement that the Justice Department, that former FBI Director James Comey would not be charged for leaking memos related to President Donald Trump to the press. And as you can see in the video, Mark clearly predicted that Comey was going to prison, which again, you know, it still could happen. Comey, there are Durham reports coming out. So, I mean, you have to, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt here. When you get these stories and all of a sudden, boom, you've got an almost Category 6 storm, McDonald said, it does not take a genius to figure out it's called a distraction and it's called a false flag. Taylor agreed. The hordes of chaos have been released. Satan's pastors have been activated. We're seeing all these things happen right now. Like you said, the storms and shootings, they know what's coming. The hurricane right here, that's a declaration of war against the people. People were confused, to say the least. I would have to say that this is way confusing. Here's Right Wing Watch and their Twitter feed wrote this Twitter. So-called firefighter prophet Mark Taylor says that Hurricane Dorian is a declaration of war against Trump supporters, just like when Hitler carpeted London during the Blitz. I would have to agree. Where do these people come from? I don't know. I clicked on Twitter. I better hit the back button. That is something else. There are all those tweets. Taylor has claimed in the past that patriots will rise up and say enough is enough, and they will take matters into their own hands, and they will drag Democrats' dead bodies through the streets. And if the Justice Department takes too long to arrest them, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. There are many serious people out there that believe he's a prophet, and I mean, this is interesting stuff. But when it rains, it pours. Hurricane Dorian is bringing out other false prophets and conspiracy theorists from Prophet Kat Kerr. Who's Prophet Kat Kerr? Everyone can relax now that prophetess and weather warrior Kat Kerr has taken authority over Hurricane Dorian in the name of Jesus. Oh my goodness. This is going off the rails. I thought that... Let's see what she says here. Oh no, do I have a bad internet?
So right now, at this moment, we take authority over Dorian that has no right off the coast of this state or anywhere. And we hit that storm to the east right now. And I'm going to do it 3 times. We hit it to the east. We hit it to the east and command it. You go to the east, out away from land. We declare you would do no destruction in any way. We won't tolerate it. So, Father, I thank you for this honor and privilege to be here on the little coast of Florida. And we say to that storm, your end is coming. We don't.
Oh my goodness, I can't handle any more of that. Wowzers. Wowzers. What kind of nonsense is this? What have I got myself into here? Dorian is expected to hit the U.S. coast on Tuesday evening. So, well, anyway, this website talks about some of his prophecies. It's called, it's angelfire.com, and it's a website. You could do a Google search on it, but it shows all his prophecies, including his commander-in-chief prophecy, and they're all labeled out here. And you can read through this, and you'll see that a lot of these prophecies are, they hit on a lot of points. And yeah, there are some significant things that he has predicted that have come true. Like he predicted that Trump would become president. Trump became president. He predicted that we would have a big part in the state of Israel becoming more prominent. That's definitely happened by moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So, and there's many other things that I won't get into now about his prophecies that have come true. And so I would say that he has prophesied some things that have come true, and he has prophesied things that have not happened yet. Whether they will come true in the future, we will find out. But the most troubling are the three that I mentioned before, where he specifically predicted Trump would become president in the 2012 cycle, and President Obama was reelected in that cycle. He predicted that there would be a red wave in the 2018 election cycle, and just the exact opposite happened. The Democrats took control, and he predicted that President Obama would have 3 terms, and that has not come true. But again, you know, there are a bunch of prophecies that have come true. But the Bible says that in the last days, many people will come and prophesy in my name, and we need to watch out for sheep that are in, or wolves in sheep's clothing. And I think that, in fact, let's actually go to that verse right now. I will. Let's see here. Wolves and sheep's clothing prophets. Yeah, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravaging wolves. The Word English Bible translates the passage as beware of false prophets. That's Matthew 7:15. There's a whole Wikipedia page about it. The metaphor wolves in sheep clothing has become a common English expression. It is alluded to in Romeo and Juliet, where a character is called wolvish ravening lamb. Sheep were an important part of important part of life in Galilee of the Jesus era, and the metaphor of the pious as a flock of sheep is a common one in both the Old and New Testament. Wolves were regarded as greedy and malevolent predators who were a threat to the innocent, and such wolf metaphors also are found in several other parts of the Bible. So I think that when it comes to somebody who is telling us that they're a prophet, we really need to investigate and see if they are indeed prophets. And the Bible says that you can tell a false prophet by one thing. If they make a prophecy and it does not come true, they are a false prophet. And I would suggest that perhaps Mark Taylor has made such a prophecy, and it has not come true. But that's for you to decide. I just figured I would put this point out there. I'm going to just go ahead and cut this stream off now. Please share this, comment, like, let me know what you think of it. As far as streams go, I feel like this did not go as well as it could have. But just for kicks and giggles, I will play this for you. Stopping today at the original Dunkin' Donuts in Quincy, Massachusetts. And this site, so I did this earlier today. This is the original site of Dunkin' Donuts, just a treat for the end of this video. I've gone by it a lot. It's actually not that far from my normal area. And so I've gone by it a bunch, but I've never filmed it. I figured I'd film it. I'm sure it's out there, but anyway, this says this is the original site of Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, in 1950 it was built, and you can see it's been modernized. There used to be some big buildings around it and whatnot, but it's now it looks pretty much like any other Dunkin' Donuts. You can see that full video. You can see that full video on my YouTube channel. Check it out. I checked that out earlier today. It was pretty cool. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this stream off right now. And thanks for watching. Please share, comment, like, and all the above.